sixth arm, Hulk smash the out of him, badassery and inexorable, inescapable blade of destruction. Hucks it out, big dick energy, pure badassery, whirling vortex of death, six arms, sword made of you, thunderstorms. Alright guys, before we get started on this tier list, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go down. I need you to like the video. I need you to subscribe if you're not already. Hit that notification bell, you know, if you're into that sort of thing. And just fucking do it, alright? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another G-Mineo video. I'm your host, Seth, and in today's video, we are making, as I said, a tier list for Naraka Bladepoint and the heroes that you can choose in this game. Now, recently I came out with a video where I talked about Naraka Bladepoint, kind of did a first impressions and a sort of / beginner's walkthrough where I talked about some of the core mechanics of the game, and I am really enjoying this game, you guys. It's super fun. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of sort of buzz around the game, and like I said, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And as I've gotten to play a little bit more, I've gotten more familiar with the heroes that are available in the game and decided to do a quick tier list to sort of tell you guys about what I think, in my opinion, are going to be emerging as the sort of, you know, best champions and the more common ones that we see. I mean, I guess let's just fucking get into it, because, you know, why not? All right, so I got my little tier list here with all my heroes. In the game of Naraka Bladepoint, there are 7 heroes that you can choose from when you go into any game mode. And in the game mode, as I said in this video, wherever the fuck it is, somewhere, there, maybe it was on the right. God damn, everything's back, right there. Yeah. But in the 2 main game modes, which are Quick Match and Herald's Trial, you can go as either a solo or as a trio. And so we're gonna talk about each of these characters in the context of each of those modes, as well as their sort of overall abilities, in my opinion. So you guys, there are 7 heroes that you can choose from when you drop into any game in Naraka Bladepoint. And first up is Viper Ning. Now, Viper Ning, to me, just gets points for pure badassery, because she's like a blind swordswoman who's got fucking venom running through her veins. Like, so metal. But Viper Ning is a solid in really any game mode, and that is largely due to her ult, which is badass. Her ult is called Twilight Crimson. What it does is it basically allows her to focus her ki. It takes a minute to get off, but during that time you have like some resistances, I think, to damage, and then you have this cool purple like shroud that goes out and like sinks into people, and after a few seconds it stuns your enemies, which is a very potent status effect in this game, because they're just sitting there like idiots grabbing their heads like, oh no, and then you can beat the shit out of them. So her ult is fantastic, and it is the debuff that it is able to provide to enemy players is huge. In fact, in a match, me and my team were getting the shit kicked out of us. I popped off her ult, was able to stun the enemy team, and we were able to turn the tide quickly and win the battle. So this can literally sort of make or break any encounter that you have with an opposing team in this game. In addition, she has a great skill called Yushan Enigma, and it creates like this wave black freaking like blast force thing that propels outward, knocks enemies back, and the biggest part about it is it interrupts blue focus attacks, which can be fucking devastating if you get hit with them, especially if someone's charging up a greatsword. And it can be kind of hard or difficult to counter properly in this game. So the fact that you can just hit F and interrupt a blue focus attack that's coming to, you know, chop your fucking head off, super powerful. In addition, for Viper Ning's ult and her skills, there's other variants, and some of the variants can do things like debuff the enemy by making them not be able to use their ults and skills for a certain period of time. So Viper Ning is arguably the best controller in the game of all of the heroes, and for that reason she lands solidly in the A tier and might land in the S tier in trios, just because she can hit multiple targets with that ability and really provide some devastating debuffs to an enemy team. So Viper Ning, solidly A tier, in my opinion. And like I said, points for just being fucking awesome. Also, sweet name, Viper, yes. Next up we have Temulch, and Temulch is pretty cool. He looks awesome, his name's awesome, I love his fucking cool chest tattoo, war paint things, but unfortunately the excitement for him kind of ends there. You see, the biggest problem that I have with Temulch is that his ult is so situational. The biggest issue is that in this game, what it feels like to me is that the ranged meta is not as powerful as the melee meta right now. So ranged attacks don't really come to play that much because you can close the distance between you and an enemy attacker so quickly with grappling hook. Also, the mobility in the game, like you can climb and jump and double jump and slide, it makes it hard to kind of keep your eyeballs on somebody, and therefore, again, decreasing the sort of effectiveness of going ranged, unless you maybe have a repeating crossbow and you're just like, which is kind of fun. But Ultimately, you can close the distance so fast between you and an enemy ranged attacker, and Temulch's sort of Temulch's whole ult creates this Zephyr, which does have a knockdown or a knockback ability, which is kind of cool and can be helpful in certain situations, but its primary function is to block incoming projectiles. And again, in solos, it's kind of useless because if someone's shooting you from range and you pop this off, it doesn't move with you. It stays where you had it. And so that person who's shooting you with whatever they are is just sitting back, can just sit and wait for it to go away. And then in trios, it's maybe potentially more useful because you could have like one guy away who's shooting you, trying to kind of decrease you and your teammates' health, pop that, that Zephyr thing off and block those attacks. But like I said, very situational, right? You're counting on one guy being back and shooting you while two guys are in with you. And again, just not exactly the most all-around useful ability. So his ult kind of is a little bit lackluster. His skill is a little bit better. He creates these little like Zephyr Storm things that he can launch at people, and it kind of catches them in a whirlwind and knocks them down. So his skill is good, but his ult is, again, leaves something to be desired. And for that reason, for me, Temulch lands pretty solidly in just like the C tier. Again, not that great, can be kind of fun, and again, very situational, but overall, not the best. So C tier for me. Next up, we have Matari. Now, Matari's mobility in a game dominated by mobility is second to none. So she's badass. Her biggest thing is Silent Flutter, which is her skill, and that can be used to teleport across the battlefield. Now, combine her ability to teleport with the grappling hook, with the already cool mechanics that you can use to move so quickly around the maps in these games, and you can see how she gets pretty effective very quickly. In addition, her ult allows her to go completely invisible. You can still kind of see like a vague outline, like Predator style, but it makes her harder to sort of track and get an eye on in the chaos of combat as it is in this game, and so is pretty effective. And as you get more powerful with her, she can grant that benefit to allies. So because of her huge ability to be mobile and the ability to sort of stealth, ambush, and become much more difficult to sort of pin down, for me, she lands solidly in the A tier of champs or of heroes. Again, I really like Matari, I like her ability, and in solos, she might be even better, kind of pushing into S tier because that invisibility can come in so much handy for sneaking up on a single, a lone fighter. So solid A tier for me for Matari. Next up, we have Tarka Ji. Now, Tarka Ji might have the coolest abilities and ult in the game because, fucking fire, right? But in all seriousness, Tarka Ji is super badass. His inner fire skill is super cool. It provides you with the ability to block any attack, which is super clutch because you can't block normal attacks. You can only counter blue focus attacks in the game. So the ability to block any and all incoming attacks while you have that skill up is very powerful and can come in big handy when you're kind of like in the shit with lots of different people trying to hit you. But for me, the definite reason why Tarka Ji, is one of the better champions is his blackout ability. Because again, it increases his mobility so much. He becomes like, I swear, like 3 times as fast. He can jump twice as high, and combine his ability to go really, really quickly with his ability to grapple and jump so much higher and jump around the battlefield makes his mobility super, super high and makes him very difficult to pin down in a fight. In addition, his ult and his skills have these sort of like burning debuff effects that they can create in certain situations for enemies. So for that reason, Tarka Ji also lands in the A tier for me. Next up, we have Kurumi. Kurumi is the support character, the support hero in the game, and she is weird. Kurumi's interesting because her ult, her skill rather, is pretty much useless in solos because she needs, it all relies on her being with a teammate. She has to be able to connect to a teammate and can heal them, but she can't do it to herself. At least not to the same degree of effectiveness as she can for a teammate. So in solos, her biggest skill doesn't really come into play. And the other big thing is while her skill is active, she can't attack, which is a big problem. And it lasts for a long time. 30 seconds, this little leash tether of healing energy is active, and during that time, she can't attack. So her skill, again, not good in solos because you can't really use it. And healing in a lot of games is tricky because you generally can't heal fast enough to keep up with the damage output of 2 or even 1 character. And even in trios, again, her skill is a little bit tricky because for 30 seconds while she's healing an ally, she can't attack. So that's one of your 3 guns out. You can teleport to any of the allies that you have leashed up with your Binding Prayer, and it kind of knocks down enemies that are around them. So it's a little bit of control mixed in with your support, but again, attacking is kind of the big way to go, and for that reason, her skill is good in trios, but not as good as some other skills that are available to other characters. But where she really shines, especially in trios, is with her ult. What her ult allows her to do is create a circle of healing energy, and what that does is it heals and removes debuffs. So she's the perfect counter to something like Viper Ning's ability to stun. So it lasts for 15 seconds, and during that time your allies are healing, they can't be debuffed because your ability removes it all, and for that reason she's really, really effective as a member of a 3-person team. In addition, when you reach Eminent Being, which is sort of the highest tier, with Kurumi, her ult gets even better because it instantly repairs armor and health for nearby teammates, and it doesn't, as far as I know, have a range limitation. So you just like instantly heal and armor back up allies within a certain distance, and that is very, very powerful and can completely change the turn of events in a fight. So again, Kurumi's kind of tricky. In solos, I'd say she's D tier because her ult doesn't increase her damage and her skill is pretty much ineffective. But in trios, I would rate her in the B tier, maybe potentially pushing into A, especially if you're able to get that Eminent Being and get that ult, because again, it can completely change the tide of a battle. So I will put Kurumi solidly in the B tier. Now, one of the things about Kurumi is I heard she was really, really good in the beta. She was S tier for sure, but they nerfed her after the launch, or as part of the official launch. So we'll see if later on down the line she gets some improvements that are bringing her back up to that solid A tier, maybe even S tier play. Next up, we have Tianhai, and Tianhai is fucking cool. Tianhai is a super dope monk, and his Divine Bell might be the best skill in the game, in my personal opinion. Divine Bell can be used while you're under attack, and it creates this sort of spectral bell around Tianhai and blocks or gives you resistance to melee damage and reflects projectiles back at the shooter. So you can see why this is immediately better than Temulch. Temulch just blocks it and then that's it. Tianhai gives you resistance to physical damage in melee, as well as reflecting those targets, those projectiles back at the shooter for an extra dose of fuck you. He also has 2 other variants of his skill which can't be used while you're under attack, but they can do cool things like knock back your opponents and disarm them of their weapons, which can come in really, really handy. And his ult is arguably one of the coolest in the game, if maybe not the most effective necessarily, mainly because it's a little clunky and slow and can't be used in tight quarters. Tianhai's ult, which is called Titan's Call, allows him to turn into a Vajra, which is this like massive 6-armed, meathead, muscle-bound warrior of pure badassery and fucking thunderstorms. And he just got big dick energy. While in the state, Tianhai gains more health, has 6 fucking arms, and he can like at a distance or up close grab hold of enemy players and then Hulk smash the fuck out of them into the ground, which is really fun to like pick up somebody and just spike them like Gronk does a football. And because he's got so many fucking arms, you can have multiple opponents in your hands at once. And as far as I know and have been able to see, there's really no way to get out of it. Once he's got your ass, he's got your ass. You're getting spiked. The biggest limitation to this is that he can't use it in a space where the Vajra can't fit. So once you do it, you can't go into buildings anymore. And it still has weak points that glow for enemies to attack, so be careful with this one not to get swarmed. And the other thing, like I said, is in a game where mobility is so important, the Vajra seems a little bit slow. You lose your ability to grappling hook, you're a little bit slower, it feels like, in terms of your movement, and it's just, again, a little bit clunky. And also, if you're playing with a smart player, they just run away into a building where you can't get into. I actually lost at the very end of a match this way, because I was playing against a player, they were very, very smart, I went into my ult, and then they just ran away into a building, waited till my shit ran out, and then came back and beat my ass. And during that time, they were able to heal up their armor, recover their weapons, recover their health, basically come back into the fight full strength, because it lasts for 40 seconds, which is plenty of time to heal everything up. So in the right situation, it's actually kind of a detriment almost. And because of the limitations of his ult, I put Tianhai right solidly in A tier, not quite S though. And finally, my girl, our last champion, Yoto Hime. Now this girl is pure badassery, and her ult and skills are both devastating to enemies because she is all offense all the time. Yoto Hime is probably the best solo adventurer and arguably the best one in trios as well, because she's able to just pump out damage and has some really impressive mobility and some debuff as well. Her skill, which is called Spirit Slash, basically has her sending out the sword that she has in her like animation. She fucking hucks it out and it spins around like a whirling vortex of death and gets people trapped in it. And while it's active, you can use F, hit your skill tab again, and teleport to the location and then swipe with it. So it's all about mobility and pure offense while using her skill. And it blocks non-explosive projectiles. So we've got defensive capability because it blocks non-explosive projectiles, pure offensive because you can slash with it and it does damage and kind of like knocks people around, and you can teleport. It's got all the things we need: defense, offense, and maneuverability. One variant of the skill extends the duration that the thing is active, but removes the teleportation aspect. And the final version, or the best version of her skill, has the blade moving very slowly with her like an inexorable, inescapable blade of destruction and fucking death. And finally, her ult, which is called Ominous Blade, which is basically a 20-foot long sword called Fuck You. That's why. She's able to summon this massive purple sword and take 3 massive swipes with it. It does massive amounts of damage, it can pin people underneath it, and while it's active, she can throw it, teleport to it, and then use it again. This ult is devastating. I've seen entire battles completely turned around by this ult, mine and others, and it is, to me, without doubt, the most powerful in the game, and she is already emerging as one of the most popular and most frequent choices of champions. So she is pure offense, great maneuverability, great defensive and debuff capabilities, and for that reason, Yoto Hime is our only, to me, true S-tier character in Naraka Bladepoint. So this is our final tally, you guys. We've got a couple of A-tier champions. Most of them are pretty good. Some who are only good situationally, and then Yoto Hime, who is the standout, who is just good in every situation because she is so offensively capable, has great mobility, and is just awesome to play as. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you been playing? Do you agree with my assessment? So far, there haven't been many of these created yet, so we don't really know where the community's landing. But I do see Yoto Hime used very, very frequently in the matches that I'm getting into more and more, and I think it's all because of that ult and how powerful it is. So this has been my ranking, my tier list, guys, for Naraka Bladepoint. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, make sure to drop a like on the video. Let me know down in the comments below who your favorite champ is or hero is to play and what you guys think of Naraka Bladepoint. One of my favorite things is that on your hero selection page, there's 2 more empty squares where it looks like 2 more faces might appear. So I'm very excited to see what additional champions or heroes are going to get added, hopefully in the near future, with some unique skills and abilities of their own, so that we can update this tier list sometime later. But that is it for me today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. We appreciate your support here on the channel. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And as always, game it till you make it. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye.